Hi, this is Ofori, the digital reader. Today I'm going to be talking about what is probably the largest DRM-free comic book storefront in the world. While Amazon is much bigger, their titles are packed with DRM. The site I want to highlight today is DrivethruComics. It's been around for about 2 decades and features well over 10,000 comic books. Of course, many of these belong to ongoing series, so it isn't 10,000 completely unique standalone titles, but the sheer volume of individual books is incredible. Best of all, every single one of them is entirely DRM free. The majority of their files are available as PDFs, though they do offer a few other formats, including some EPUBs and CBZ files. These PDF files are digitally watermarked to signify that you're the owner. A small message is added to the bottom of each page of the PDF containing your name and the order number of your purchase, but they can be used with any app that can open PDFs. The CBZ format is a specialized comic book extension, but I typically prefer standard PDFs. A CBZ file doesn't actually have any special properties for panel navigation or anything to make it more of a comic book reading experience. It's literally just a renamed zip file full of images. Because of that, PDFs work perfectly fine for me. Today I'm going to dive into the site to give you a quick tour, show you what it has to offer, and share a few tips on how to navigate it. Because DrivethruComics is so massive, I'll also walk you through how I personally filter through everything and share a few titles currently sitting on my wish list. Hopefully they'll resonate with you or give you some inspiration for what to look for next. There's a lot to cover, so I'm going to fade into the background and let my voice guide you through the full screen experience. If you've watched my videos before, you're already used to that. Alright, let's jump in. So let's get started. We're going to go ahead into DrivethruComics website and pull that up. And once you pull up the website, then they're going to have some search tabs. You can search by publisher. These are just some of the publishers. They have a whole bunch more, but these are the ones that are the biggest. So you can search by publisher. You can search by genre, and these are all the genres. They have a decent list of genres. You can search by product type. Most of the stuff they have on here is comics, so I really don't worry about filtering for product type. You can search by audience. Now this can be useful, especially if you want to do something like get a bunch of free comics for your kids to put on your tablet or something if you're going on vacation. What you could do is select kid friendly and go to the free selection of comics that they have and just pick a bunch and throw it on a tablet for your kid to read on a trip. You can choose by format. Of course, digital is the only format that I'm interested in, so I'm going to choose digital. And you can, of course, well, not of course, but you can choose by language. Of course, by default, since I'm in the US, it's going to be English. Then they'll break everything down. They have their newest titles. They have their best-selling titles. They have their featured titles. And then, like I said, they do have a bunch of free titles, and these are their newest free titles. And they have what they have that's the newest in print. Obviously, I won't be using the looking at anything in print, but from their main site, they'll mix in print and digital. What we're going to do is go back up. We're going to go ahead and sort for digital. And then once we choose digital, a little filter for digital, we'll still get the other filters if we want to use them. For example, digital if we want to sort for a specific language, or digital, which is just kids. We can go ahead and mix and match the filters. You can see now it's changed to hottest digital titles, and you can see it's changed to newest digital titles. And you can see now we no longer see any print titles, but we still do have the feature titles, and the feature titles are digital. If you look where I'm pointing on my pointer, you can see that they actually have 21,665 digital titles. So actually over 20,000 DRM-free titles for you to choose from. I think that's the biggest in the world as far as DRM-free comics. But maybe if I'm wrong, somebody correct me. Now, the way I generally like to search, you can go through all those hottest new titles and stuff. What I generally do is I select digital and then I just scroll all the way to the bottom. And when you go all the way to the bottom, you can see all of their titles. So then what I do is if it's a slow day or something like that, I've just actually just been going through the full list page by page and just putting the comics that I like in my wish list. Now, what also I do is I actually use my Notes app, and I keep track in my Notes app as to the latest page I'm on. So, for example, I'm on page 9 now, so I just leave myself a note in my DrivethruComics search list that I left off on page 9. So now we're going to go to my wish list where I've put all my comics, and you can kind of see all the comics that are in my wish list. Since I've started reading more of a variety, I actually even read more of a variety of comic books. So I'm just going to go over the first 5 that are in my wish list just so you can see, what the kind of stuff I'm choosing, and also the variety of stuff that's in DrivethruComics, which is not just superheroes. So there's Jetta, which is kind of an Archie meets the Jetsons, so a futuristic teenage girl, and the hijinks that ensue. It just looked lighthearted and fun. And then we have April Gray, and April Gray kind of looks like a Firestarter meets Stranger Things kind of deal. And then we have literature, and literature is just basically a collection of cartoons by the creator of the Sheldon cartoon strip, the online cartoon strip. I loved Sheldon, so I figured I'd give this a shot. Then we have the Dresden Files comic, volume 1. I'm not a huge fan of the Dresden books. I don't know why, they just seemed a little dry to me, but I kind of felt like I wanted to try this comic because I feel like the comic book's going to be able to give me some visuals to go with the story, and maybe that might spice it up a little bit as far as being a little bit more interesting and a little bit more draw me into the story. So I figure I'd give this one a try, see if it changed how I felt about the Dresden Files. And then we have one, I just saw the title, and as soon as I saw the title, I kind of got sucked in. It just seems like such a good idea that why isn't there a TV show about this already? And that's Child Possession Services, which is about a social worker who also has special abilities that she uses to exorcise demonic children. Sometimes the child's bad, and sometimes the child's bad because they're being possessed by a demon. It's kind of like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but it's a social worker who can exorcise children. So I don't know, it just kind of interested me. But anyway, those are 5 quick hits that are in my wish list. I have 33 items in it. So what I like to do is I like to copy my wish list and paste it into my Notes app. If you have a good Notes app like UpNotes or Apple Notes, I really don't know what the equivalent is for Android. Maybe one day I'll look it up. But since UpNotes for me is cross-platform, I just use both. But what I do is I select my whole wish list, and then I just go ahead and I paste the whole wish list into my Notes app, so that way at a glance I can kind of see what's in my wish list on DrivethruComics. And maybe I might want to look up a little bit more information on the comic. Maybe I want to look up a little bit more information on the writers and the creators. A lot of times when I do my wish list, I'll see a comic I'm interested in and it's like number 38. So I'll put it on my wish list, and then at some point I'll go and I'll look it up to see if they have issue number 1, and then I'll swap out issue number 1 for issue number 38, which I just kind of bumped into. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a comic to my wish list just to show you how easy that is. I see Liberty Girl, Now it's the Liberty Girl Patriot collection. I'm not terribly interested in that. I don't like to get a new comic and be in the middle, but what I can do is either use Liberty Girl in the browse category, or in this one they also have a link that takes you directly just to Liberty Girl comics. So what I'm going to do is choose Liberty Girl number 1, and then once I choose Liberty Girl number 1, I'm going to add it to the wish list. And then I can see, good, it's been added to my wish list. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a couple comics off my wish list to show you kind of what that experience is like. Pretty seamless. I'm going to choose Mouse Guard. I'm going to choose Fall 1152 number 2 and Fall 1152 number 3. I already have Fall 1152 number 1. I believe the whole story arc for Fall 1152 is 6 issues. So I may get the other 3 issues this month just to finish that story arc, but I'll see how I feel about Mouse Guard. At least from the first 3 issues, I should have a good idea as to how I feel about it and how much I like the series. I'm going to go ahead and move these both of these to my shopping cart. And once I've moved them to my shopping cart, then I'm going to go ahead up and go to my cart. Now you'll notice once you go to your cart, on the right, they'll also show you some other stuff that customers bought. So this way, reason this is really nice is if you get a comic, because they have so many comics, you might get a comic and then on the right hand side, when you're looking at customers already bought, you might see something else that you're interested in. And the other reason it's useful is, especially since if you're starting from an issue 1 or 2 or something, you can see the other issues you might want to pick up. I'm just going to go ahead and proceed to checkout. And then of course they try and upsell me 2 more issues, which I'm not interested in. And when I'm buying comic books, you know me, I am PayPal for life. So I'm going to purchase it using PayPal. And once I complete the purchase, now I should note they do not accept Google Pay, but they do accept Venmo, and they also accept PayPal's Pay Later, and of course all major credit cards. Once the payment goes through, then I can go ahead and download the titles. Now, as I always say, whenever I download my title, I always just double check to make sure that the info in the title is accurate. And when I add it to Caliber, I like to make sure that the title has information. So I'm in Caliber now. I'm opening it up. This is my comic book library. And I'm going to go ahead and add those 2 titles, Mouse Guard Fall 2 and 3. And when it adds them, you can see it just kind of has a blank info. So what I always like to do, check to make sure that it actually is something in there that's not locked or anything. And then I'm going to go ahead and edit the metadata individually. First, I'm going to see if I can automatically do it. I can't. So what I'm going to do is just use my browser to go back to DrivethruComics and copy any information that is missing or any extra information that is like a blurb of what the comic's about or something like that that's in there. So I'm going to go to my mouse guard. I'm going to pull a description and then just drop that description in the metadata for the book. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that in there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and update the other books the same way. So now I have good information in all my mouse guard titles. So that's DrivethruComics. As you can see, there's an absolute ton of material in there. Now that we've actually looked at the storefront together, it's actually over 20,000 comic books. I know a library that massive can make it tough to figure out where to start. So because of that, I'm going to treat this storefront much like I do Project Gutenberg. I'm going to start diving deep into the catalog, and every month or so, I'll showcase a comic book of the month. These will be books I've personally found on the platform that I think are worth a consideration. My goal isn't just to stick to one specific genre, but to highlight high-quality storytelling all around. If I pick something that matches your taste, you can give it a shot. If not, I'll hopefully cover a genre that you'll eventually enjoy. Just like my other recommendations, I'll make sure to mix things up by looking into horror, romance, and everything in between to find the best on DrivethruComics. Until next time, this is Ofori, the Digital Reader, and keep reading.